everybody. Welcome back to Low Power Mode with Breezy.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
Okay, so in anticipation of Beyoncé Giselle Knowles-Carter's newest album, I thought I would talk about her single Break My Soul. So let's go. Music. As you'll be able to detect this episode of Low Power Mode, I have recently had a really deep appreciation for Beyoncé. I know that like any artist, there are different levels of engagement. At this point, everyone in the world has heard a song from Beyoncé, whether they're aware of it or not. So everybody knows Beyoncé. But then is it the Halo single ladies Beyoncé, or is it the 7-Eleven formation, Beyoncé? And so, yeah, it's a very exciting time because no matter what level you are on with Beyoncé, we know that this is someone who delivers year after year since they were 9 years old. And it doesn't matter if they have kids, if they have a family. Beyoncé is an artist, and she is going to continue to do her art regardless of what is going on in her life, because that's her calling. And so it's I've had some conversations where I defend Beyoncé, and then I'm like, why? I should not be talking to this person if I feel like I have to defend myself about Beyoncé. She's kind of the Obama of the music industry. You really cannot, there's no strikes against her. She's just had to work twice as hard for half as much and did that. And so I know that there are many, many other singers who pop singers and people who carry the tradition of Black or African American music. Diana Ross, Nina Simone. There have been so many over the years. But I really, I separate Beyoncé from being a pop star, and I really put her in that lineage of carrying the history of Black women. So that's where I'm at with generally how I feel about Beyoncé. And then Break My Soul came out, was it 2-3 weeks ago? And I'm sure you've heard this song already. It's great that the mainstream seems to be getting more into house music. House music has its roots in Detroit, in Chicago, in the gay clubs, in the clubs up there with the gay, Black, Latin, Asian, all of the races, all together, but especially the marginalized ones, found the club as a sanctuary, like a church. And so house music in its originality was the whole point was to be able to play music for a super extended period of time. So they're just let's just make these beats pretty simple and make them fun and disco-y, and there you have house music. So it was really cool to have Beyoncé make her own house music track, but pay homage to the people who kind of come from these electronic styles. I feel like I feel like, there's always the debate, is the artist stealing, or I feel like every artist steals. But like for me, when Beyonce does it, it feels good, and like when Drake does it, it feels bad. So that's kind of where I'm at with Break My Soul. And it's great. I mean, if you know the song, You Got to Show Me Love, this was Robin S.'s 1993 house hit. Um, so she sampled this track. This was harder for me to detect. But then once I heard it, I was like, oh, okay. And and it really bumped up. You know how things work in the digital age, like if an artist goes back to an artist who is maybe faded out a little bit, then it gives them like a huge boost. So the internet was like Robin S. And so I think she talked about that being an exciting thing, and how Beyonce using her music is like one of the biggest compliments she can get. So that's definitely what you want to hear from like the house ancestors, so to speak. And then Big Freedia, if you don't know if you don't know who Big Freedia is, she is the queen of bounce music. Bounce music originates out of New Orleans, and it is fast, beat heavy electronic music. And Big Freedia has been doing it for like decades. So it was also awesome because Big Freedia kind of reminds me, gender wise, like of Sylvester, where it's like I am me, like. And so in this song Explode, that is sampled for Beyonce's Break My Soul, Big Freedia talks about, I am not just Freddie Ross, I am not just Big Freedia, I am not just, him or her, or like there's this gender interrogation, and there's this multiplicitous representation. And I just like Big Freedia is like always gonna be someone who's so close to my heart in music, because even though I don't listen to her music like all the time, what she represents is so important to me. And I think that Beyonce doing this house track and paying homage to the Black queer folks like Big Freedia, and the Black women like Robin S. It's really heartening. So that's a little bit of like the historical background of the song. And then I thought it's just classic, like Beyonce and her beautiful Creole spirit. She was like, I'm going to release this on the June summer solstice. So romantic, like so artsy. I love it. And I remember too reading about like CBS News or someone, it was CNN, I don't know, wrote an article like about what's it called? The Great Resignation. How many people are quitting their jobs and working freelance and doing what they want to do instead of being tied to a 9-to-5 job. So the lyrics point to this great resignation kind of thing. And so the headline was like, Beyonce told me to quit my job or something like that. But I think there was like a big Twitter response or something like that, with a lot of people being like, yeah, the queen has spoken. It was great. Now, I think something that's important about house is that you're not like going too deep, so to speak, but you are getting into the soul of the thing. And so I think she really accomplishes it, because she's kind of she mentions this, they got me working 9 to 5 type of attitude, and there's also like this progression where at first she says, I can't sleep at night, and then that's why I can sleep at night. Like there's a kind of like a transformation that happens within the song. And there's also this message of like, people searching for love. Oh, I keep like hitting the mic and the table, sorry. Searching for love and things that are outside of themselves, and her message is that it's within. So she just embodies like everything free and good and warm and ancestral, and I don't know. I'm just at first I was like, okay, yeah, like this song is great. Then you peel back the layers and it's like, wow, no, this is great. I love what you're doing, Beyonce. Keep doing it. She don't need my encouragement, but she's got it. The writers on this song, outside of Big Frida's, the sample from Big Frida's "Explode" back in 2014, and Robin S.'s "Show Me Love," which was 93. Jay-Z is credited as a writer on this track, and then there's a few other people who are credited as writers, but I think that's because of the sampling. So Jay-Z and Beyonce, fucking killing it. She talks a lot in her like documentaries and stuff about how he really helps her become a better artist, and how she looks up to him in these ways. And it's kind of nice. Like I at first took that angle of like, okay, we're not over you cheating on Beyonce, you know, like immature, like undeserving, whatever. Even though I grew up with Jay-Z's music, but yeah, it's special. What they have is got to be special if they're still working on music together. Like, yeah. And then production wise, it was Beyonce, The Dream, and someone named Jens Christian Isakin. So I don't know who that is, but Beyonce's worked with The Dream a lot in the past. So some banger shit. So super exciting. She's stated that this is like the project that she's been most ambitious on yet, and considering the ambitiousness of things like Black is King and Lemonade being a full visual album, and even Self-Titled being a full visual album, it's so exciting. It's incredibly exciting. And yeah, this is her first solo album in 6 years. So she's 40 years old. It's like what wisdom are we going to get? What do you have to give us, Beyonce? Not only am I excited just to listen to the music, but I'm excited on like a cultural level. I'm like, where are we going? She's kind of like our world leader in many ways. So once again, Break My Soul, we're celebrating this Renaissance album that's coming in 4 days on the 29th of July. And it's going to be great. So, yeah, let's roll on into TV. Television. So on Friday, it was the premiere of Issa Rae's Rap Shit. So this is, I haven't spoken about Insecure, but I've talked about Issa Rae on the podcast before. What Beyonce, it's like hard to say this analogy because there's like the difference in timing and age and like level and stuff. But what Beyonce has done in terms of opening doors for people behind her, Issa Rae is doing that. It's so cool to see as a Black creative, like to see this woman come in here and be like, I'm fighting for my shit. No one is going to force me to do things I don't want to do. And I'm going to give a shit ton of opportunities to other people like me. Like, that's definitely what I would hope to do in the future. I don't know how yet, but I want to contribute. And Issa Rae has been one of the biggest contributors of the decade. Like, really, really. She even has... Okay, I'm not going to go down that road. So, this is Issa's newest show. Well, actually, there was the Sweet Life. There's a show, Sweet Life. I didn't watch it. I need to look into that. But this is Rap Shit. This focuses on... I think it's going to be three rapper AFAB folks from Miami. So come on, like, this is my shit. And it's really fun too because I've talked about The Read a lot, the podcast that I love and is currently on hiatus. And one of the writers of Rap Shit is Kid Fury, one of the hosts of The Read. So I'm so pumped. I already see the experiences that he's spoken about on The Read being played out in Rap Shit. So fucking cool. So exciting. It was cute to like go on Instagram too and like see some of the writers and how these like young black cisgender male writers will be like, Issa Rae, you changed my life. Like, I'm a better man because of you. And it's like, oh my God, so cool. So it's really fun. It starts out with these characters. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the second one's name. But the one who were kind of like closest to her story is named Shauna. I'm looking it up because this is shameful. I should definitely know all the characters' names. But also I smoke a lot of weed, so, you know, cut me a break. So Shauna is the main character. She works at this hotel in Miami, and you know she loves doing rap and hip hop and being a rapper and a writer. And she's been to college, like she's educated, and she really wants to say something, you know, with her music. And so, okay, that was really weird because IMDb is just weird sometimes. And sometimes with projects with like black women, they'll just like not have the main characters first and stuff, and it's like, what's going on? Okay, so the main character, there's two main characters so far. Shauna, played by Ada. Oh God, is it Johnson? Is it Thompson? I need to be better at this shit. Here it is. Aida Osman. So Shauna, played by Aida Osman, and Mia, played by Chameleon, an actual rapper. And if you are familiar with the rap group City Girls, they're kind of like loosely basing the story off of the Miami rap group City Girls. And the actual City Girls are executive producers. So it's fun. It's definitely there's definitely some truth, even though the characters aren't like completely based on the City Girls. But yeah, you've got one who's kind of was involved. Shauna was involved with a producer early on and kind of like dropped out of school to focus on that, and it didn't go through. Someone else got hot, and the producer ended up leaving Shauna behind. And then you've got this character Mia, who hasn't really seen the rap game for herself, but gets reunited with Shauna, and is like, oh shit, this could be really fun. So, well, less this could be really fun and more like they both kind of have selfish motives a little bit. Mia is out here on Instagram, on the cam, like doing a lot of like internet work as well as other jobs too, and has a big following. So Shauna's kind of attracted to that selfishly, and I think Mia is attracted to like what can come of it, you know, like money and like that sort of shit, which is funny when you're first starting out because it just takes such a long time to get some money. But yeah, this show is great. The way that they use the phone, like we've seen in it now, it's fairly typical in a series or a movie or whatever to have the text message pop up in text overlaid on the frame of the video. In Rap Shit, there's many shots where it's an actual camera shooting it, but it's meant to be the phone. So we are looking at people through the lens of the phone, which I think is small but very effective, and also creates this like chaos, you know, like when you leave your phone on the table and then it's just facing the ceiling, and like we see that shot, like we see that as if we are the phone. So I love this. And then obviously, Instagram has become such a huge part of many of our lives, regardless if we're within the creative industries, but especially if you're within a creative industry. And so the way that they're incorporating that into the story, I think is so real. You know how the classic effect, you go on Instagram, you see, oh, they're with them, damn, like I'm missing out, like this kind of thing. So I love that. I love how that is played. They released the first 2 episodes, so I'm going to talk a little bit about stuff that's happened. So at this point, if you haven't seen it and you don't want anything spoiled, then like skip ahead like 15 minutes. So in and I kind of forget which episode was which as well. I've only seen them once, but I was too excited, so I had to talk about them. So something that I appreciate how different these characters are, because sometimes also like I feel, as like a masculine leaning AFAB, like a non-binary person, I just the I don't want to use the word strip hop, but it really like does a good job of explaining what I mean. But like the kind of rap that kind of does what cis men do, but it's women doing it. I think that it's like a wave of feminism, right? I appreciate that, and I think it's important that is there. At the same time, it's not what I relate to, and so I really appreciate this character, Shauna, who's like, I'm not trying to take it all off for a buck. Like, I'm trying to say something, and like, I'm trying to keep like, I love this detail. Like, she has a mask that she wears onto her TikTok raps and stuff, so people aren't, attracted to her face or whatever. They're not looking at her body. They're forced to listen to the lyrics. I love that. I love that so much. And then I love this Mia character as well, who is raising a child and is working several jobs and has a baby daddy who sits up in the studio and, is getting paid. But when you get paid in the music way, it's just so different than any average job where you get like regular paychecks. I've done 3 performances being here in Berlin since the beginning of July. Haven't seen like 1 cent of anything, but that's kind of how it works. Like, you have to send an invoice and then follow up and blah, 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 chase your money down. So in the first episode, we get we get that he's not contributing, Mia's baby daddy, Lamont. But in the second episode, what I really, really liked is that they had this incident, right, where Mia's really trying to make some time and space to do this rap thing with her friend Shauna from high school. But she's got a lot to, she's got a kid, she's got jobs, she's got a lot to take care of. And so she gets kind of pulled away because her daughter got into a fight at school or something like that. And we've seen this scenario play out so many times on screen, where there's a black child getting in trouble and a parent needs to come in for the conference, and the parent often does not have like the time, the space. This was like an Atlanta episode like this. So in the way that they shoot that scene is Mia is there in person, and Lamont has asked her to put him on FaceTime. So he's propped up as a phone in the meeting. But they talked about like the teacher, who's a black teacher with a Jamaican accent or an island Caribbean accent. And so we really get, okay, this is Miami. These are the people who actually live and work there, not like neon partier South Beach people. And so the teacher, shows a little sheet about expressing emotions and is saying how bright this child is, but that they need help with expressing their emotions and not blowing up at really small things. And you can just see Mia sitting there, like kind of internalizing or applying what the teacher is saying to her own self, like, and Kid Fury has expressed on the read that his teachers did not give a fuck about him in school growing up, and it really affected his sense of self-worth. And so as she's walking out of the meeting, she talks about, she mentions that to her baby daddy Lamont, and is like, I wish teachers had cared about me like that. And it's really nice to see that. It's really nice to see that the black teacher cares about the black child, because it's not always the case that we see this reflected, but we see that. We see like a little breakdown of like healthy expression of emotions. And we actually see like Lamont being, it seems like he's like fake involved, but then in this conversation that Mia has with Lamont after this parent teacher this little meeting, it's like, wow, this is a young black couple trying to do their best. Not couple, this is a co-parents. And yeah, oftentimes it goes a certain way, of course, but like what happens in the scene is that Lamont gets paid, and so he then pays Mia through Cash App, and she like will have enough money to be able to like get through, the next month or whatever. And it's like, it's good. It's great that they didn't make the baby daddy character just like another dickhead, like another complete asshole. Like they're humanizing this character. I don't know. I really appreciate it. I want to see where it goes. It's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can go on. I already feel like there's so much great B-roll in there of Miami. Like we get a sense of Miami, but it's not South Beach. It's like it's like the mobile stores and like the donut shops and like the street. We get a flavor. We get some flavor, and this is people of color in Miami too. Like we're focusing not on white people. This is not Birdcage. This is so new. This is so fresh. I don't know what other like black show centering black women has come out of Miami outside of like a reality type situation. So I'm such a stan fan. I'm already like super about this show. Probably going to talk about it again when it ends. But go Issa Rae, go Kid Fury, go everyone, go Team Insecure, making history with this shit. And yes, so cool to see myself reflected on TV. So, the last thing I'll say is that they're like, why did you make rap shit? And in interviews, Issa has been like, there was a producer who said that that like essentially all women in rap do is like this strip hop sort of thing, like rap about their body and whatever. Just like kind of putting it down. And Issa was like, well, that's not true. Like there's such a breadth and depth of different types of female rappers out there. But also like, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with being about your body and how good you put it down or whatever? It's the same shit that men do. So it was like to address that double standard. And I think that that's so important. And it's intersectional feminism that affects my line of work. So you got to check out this show. Okay, that's enough for TV. Let's roll into film. Movies. Film. Okay, film section. So there was something there. I was going to talk about Polly Murray, but I feel like I need more of my brain for that. And I've been so out of it, and it's kind of warm and just endometriosis. And so I decided to do Homecoming, Beyonce's Homecoming, when she headlined Coachella, because it's very easy for me to talk about, and also it's in anticipation of her new album. But Homecoming is such a gem, and there's not many, like, I have so much content that I love, but there's not many things that I want to watch over and over that are like super super tied to like my adult self and my inner child. But Homecoming is the perfect marriage of those two, because it is, Beyonce decided, well, my inner child wants a homecoming, wants a college university experience, wants a historically black college and university, that's HBCU, wants an HBCU experience, a black college experience full of dancing and music and horns, and so her adult self gifted that to her inner self, and that's so incredible. She worked harder than I've ever heard anyone work for anything before in order to do this show. And I don't agree with all of it, especially given my health. Like, essentially, she was supposed to do Coachella in 2018. She got asked, and then she got pregnant with the twins, Sir and Rumi. And so she, put it off for a year. And then as soon as she had the babies, she got started working on Coachella. And she says in the documentary multiple times, she's very clear about this. Like, she says, I learned a valuable lesson. I will never push myself like that again. And I think what we have in Beyonce is very much like an athlete of performance. She's so intense. She's so prepared. She's so type A about it. That's why I appreciate her so much. But you can't live that way. Like, you really can't. You can't, especially not as a mother, and especially not as like a woman. Like, it's not a gender thing. It's just, you cannot constantly push yourself at 150% and exist and live your life. Like, it's a big lesson that I've had to internalize. So to see this person who is so culturally relevant in society, like coming with this lesson out of this performance, is very deep. It's not like, oh yeah, it was amazing. It's like, no. And another thing that she says is that she was like, I could have pulled out my flower crown, but no, I'm the first. Like, she's the first black woman to headline Coachella. So she could have done the hits and done a really fun stage and blah blah blah, but no, she decided to turn Coachella into an HBCU. Like, that is magnificent. What an achievement. So she was preparing for this show essentially like 10 months, or maybe probably longer. But she mentions how for like 4 months she did the music rehearsals. For 4 months, music rehearsals. Then for 4 months was the dancing rehearsals. And of course, among all of that, she chose all of the lighting, all of the staging, all of the materials to build this pyramid that the band ended up standing on. It was all done by her. So when she did this, how she, got this done, just hard to imagine with the babies. And she said that she'd be doing rehearsal, and then she would like go to her trailer and breastfeed and stuff, and then like go back, and she'd be like, it's not like before where I can rehearse 15 hours a day. And you just hear that and you're like, what? I mean, I know she loves what she does, but that is a long ass time to be doing any damn thing. Oof, so crazy, but in a good way. So Homecoming, oh my God, it's so special. It's also like a documentary, but also it's like an hour and a half of it is performance with like a lot of documentary stuff smushed in between. In the beginning, she says, "Ladies," Beyonce. She has this way of commanding whatever audience she's speaking to, and whether it's like it could be like Oscars or like ladies or like whoever she's with, Grammys, and she's just like, her way of, it's as if she's a witch and she's like putting on a positive spell on her audience. It's like, are you with me? And so she asks, are we smart? Are we strong? Have we had enough of the bullshit? And I love this. I love that she does this. It's simple, but it is so meaningful for this artist to speak directly to the ladies and to encourage and be like, oh yeah, you know this, right? You know that you're smart, right? You know that you're strong, right? Like, oh my God, she's incredible. So if you're not familiar with historically Black colleges and universities, their marching bands, like for the football team and that kind of thing, people get like, normally at a university you could get a scholarship for the band, but these bands are unbelievable. Like, not only are they playing their instruments, but they're getting in formations, they're doing all this acrobatics and shit. And so she talks about going to the HBCUs when she was a kid living in the Third Ward in Texas, in Houston, and how they would have the Battle of the Bands, and that would be like her favorite time of year. And so she was like, I'm creating my own homecoming. And it's so great because, like, yeah, I just watched School Days too from Spike Lee, and you can kind of see like the Black college Greek life situation, and you definitely see that reflected in Beyonce's Homecoming. This kind of like line of she it's dancers for her, and it's for them, it's like the pledges right into the Greek life. And I love too how her symbol for everything, like on her shirt, her sweatshirt that she's wearing, and like different parts of the show, it's B Delta K. So it's like she created her own sorority. So oh, just amazing. I love how many clips she includes from Nina Simone speaking about Blackness. There's a W.E.B. Du Bois quote about education and life, and how like school should be teaching and preparing for life, and how life is the biggest teacher. And there's also these different clips from different HBCUs. She says that so essentially she gets all these dancers, and most of them are Black, and she says, we were struggling together like it was a real university. She's got like, let's say, I don't know, it's probably like, I have no idea how many, let's say all in all, like dancers, musicians, baton twirlers, all that shit, it was probably like 200 people maybe. So can you imagine, like, that is absolutely a like a university program, or like a sorority or whatever. Just incredible. And then in her, so she would insert some Nina Simone into the documentary part, but then in her performance at Coachella, which at some point someone comes out and is like, we're naming it Beachella. So at some point at Beachella, she's doing Drunk in Love, and she goes into Nina Simone Lilac Wine and has like these contemporary dancers dancing to this Nina Simone song. And then she goes back into Drunk in Love. She's got this swag surf moment, which, if you're familiar with the song Swag Surf, like, oh my God, she just inserts so much history, Black history and culture into the show. And it's cool, in the documentary, you see footage of her binder that says like Beyonce Homecoming or whatever. And it's massive. It's one of these like law binders where it's like 3 inches, 4 inches thick, just packed. She has Alice Walker quotes, Toni Morrison voice clips. It's crazy. And she utters at one point, she's like, eventually I want to be able to do SoulCycle stairs and rehearse in the same day. And she's still, you know when women like have just given birth and they still have some weight on them, like that's how she is appearing in the video. And it's like, oh my God, she probably pushed herself so hard. Like, it's crazy because at this point with my condition and just trauma, I feel so tired all the time. And I remember during my athlete days though, like it was, you did have to get up at 5 a.m. to get to the gym by 6 to work out like those morning workouts. Then you go to class and then you go do afternoon practices. And that was just like me being it was I was a Division 1 athlete, but still just like a student athlete. I can't imagine what her schedule is. I cannot imagine. Crazy. She says after she gave birth, she was like, my mind wanted to be with my children. People don't see the sacrifice. She said, I'm limiting myself to no bread, no carbs, no sugar, no dairy, no meat, no fish, no alcohol, and I'm hungry. Can you imagine? It's kind of like the strictness of it. It's a bit scary, but it's also admirable. It's like an athlete. It really is. Like she really is. She goes about performance as a sport. And it is a sport, but Beyoncé is the Olympian of performance. Just insane. Wow. I've had eating disorders, so I'm not going to limit myself when it comes to eating and drinking and all that stuff. Unless I'm like going for a sober period, I'll limit alcohol and weed and whatever, but yeah. No. The limitations. But hey, if that's your goal, and I imagine there's so much pressure like for her body. I thought it was also interesting how she talks about how she was like, yeah, like I don't feel, after she was pregnant, she was like, I don't feel sexy. I don't feel like doing these moves. Like it doesn't feel good in my body. I don't feel it. And how that I know that even though I have a very fast metabolism and stuff, even when I gain weight these days, there's something about being assigned feminine at birth, something about the socialization of being a girl and a woman, where when you're putting on weight, there's almost an immediate shame that comes with that. Now, at this point, I know that my weight will fluctuate or whatever, but essentially my diet is kind of strict, and so it ends up that I don't end up fluctuating that much anymore. But the pressures on women and girls and people to have certain bodies, it's I think it's felt by us all. I do. And I think a lot of people are able to actively be like, no, fuck the societal norms. I'm not doing that. I love my body. Like, I love my curves. I love my fat. I love my dimples. I love every part about my body. Like, but I think that is something that has to be learned. It's like anti-racism. It's not just there. The fat phobia is what's there, and you have to fight against it. So I don't know. I thought that this was interesting too. And, just what goes through like how Beyonce has insecurities about body and shame and all that stuff, just like the rest of us. It's like, really? But it's like, of course. I don't know. I found that to be kind of interesting. I find that, yeah, her striving to figure out how to balance being a mother and being a creative person is so admirable. And I have a lot of friends out here with young babies who are full-time artists, and I see that it's doable and it's beautiful, but it's got to be difficult. It has got to be difficult. Yeah, oh my God. And then there's more clips, more quotes. Marion Wright Edelman, Tessa Thompson talking about like being a symbol for other people coming after her, and how important it is. Danae Guerrera, to see Black women, to see them up there achieving, like, we need as much of this as we can get. Audre Lorde, Cornel West, Maya Angelou. I mean, she had Les Twins, the famous hip-hop dancers, with her. One of my favorite parts of Homecoming is, well, of course, when she brings out Destiny's Child. So it's like Michelle and Kelly come out from the floor, and it's great. They do my favorite arrangement of Say My Name that I've ever heard. And then Solange comes out, Beyonce's younger sister, and she bops out, and they're dancing, and the two of them look like schoolgirls, like just so inner child and playful and fun. Like, none of this like 8 count, like don't miss a step. No, like they're having so much fun. And then Solange goes to hug Beyonce, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but they both like kind of topple over and both like roll onto the ground, like laughing. And then Solange runs off stage. It's just beautiful. It's a family affair. At one point she goes, during Baby Boy, you stay on my mind, she's like, I still, are you with me? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Blue you see footage of Blue like jumping up and down in the stands. Oh, so amazing. Just what a person, what a leader in music. We really don't have that many of them. And no, we have them, but Beyonce is just so special. So I'm going to end it here. I highly recommend Homecoming. It always puts me in a good mood. And let's roll on over into the outro. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself. Okay, and we're in the outro. And it's really easy to know what to talk about this week because I did a show that was a disaster, but it wasn't a disaster on my part. It was a disaster on the organizer's part, but it was just crazy, y'all. Like, this was my first like proper queer party, that I was invited to. So probably my expectations were maybe a bit too high. And then also there's this dynamic in Berlin sometimes where, because it's such a big city, you do have like a commercialization flair on some of these events that you don't get from day to day. And also Christopher Street Day, like, weekend is in July. So like, this is Pride in Europe, whereas in the States, Pride is in June. So I was kind of putting this all together as in real time as everything was commencing. But I had this show at the Queer Garden through this organization called Queer Garden at Festsaal Kreuzberg. And I was playing at this big stage in the back. The event had multiple stages, which many of the festivals do. And so, it was the type of thing where I showed up, my mom and I showed up, and we were there, and people were kind of like a little behind schedule, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. Did a good sound check. Everything was good. And so then there's the DJ going, and some of the artists who are going on later are arriving, and I don't know, there was just something weird about this event. And also at first I saw a lot of like queer white, but like femmes around. And I was like, hey, that's cool. And then towards the end of the night, it was like more and more kind of, I mean, like hetero looking people. I don't know. In this particular area of Berlin too is a bit touristy. So I don't know what the factors that be were. But by the time it was time for like the first, essentially, it was supposed to be like a moderator, this beautiful drag queen, and then a performer. Do a 15-minute set, then the moderator, and then the performer. And so there were 4 of us performers, I think, or 5 throughout the night. And I was kind of in the middle. So the first person was having a technical difficulty with part of the equipment. I don't know if it was on the sound engineer side of things. I don't know. But they ended up starting like 30 minutes later, which is, again, not out of the ordinary. Then they get off stage. I'm like, okay, let me go get ready because I'm up after the next person. Like the drag queen was going up and then it was somebody else. And then the drag queen was going to go up and then it was me. And so I was about to go get ready. I'm on my way. And then someone who looks like an organizer is like, Breezy, can you go now? Can you do your set now? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I need to pee, but like, yeah, I can go now. And so it was frantic. I was like, okay, ran up, peed, took a breath, went down, set up my shit. The crowd is kind of like anxiously waiting. Like there's too much time in between these sets. And the drag queen had announced after the last performance that they did their moderation thing. And then they were like, up next is Darvish. Now, I don't know if you know this performer, Darvish, is beautiful dancer from Freedia who carried a lot of presence with them. And so I was really excited to see them. But I saw them waiting on these steps, waiting to be announced or being announced, but waiting for the music. And there were more and more difficulties. So it was then that they were like, okay, let's put Breezy next. So another thing that was weird about this festival is that the photographer had no boundaries. And he was this tall, white-looking dude who was wearing a hat and t-shirt, whatever, and he had his camera, and he went up on stage to the first performer and got very close. And it was clear to me the performer, Ildiko, was not completely comfortable with this. So I thought for my set, I'm going to speak with this person and I'm going to make sure that they understand they can't be doing that with me. So before I went on stage, I spoke with him and I said, I need my space. I move around a lot. I'm quick. I'm like, sometimes my eyes are open, closed. Like, you need to give me space. And so he said, okay, yeah. Like, kind of like this weird smile. And it was just like, okay, let's hope for the best. Did my set. It was kind of a blur. I was frazzled, but I don't think it showed. And this photographer was again getting in my face, getting too close. He hit me with his camera lens and bumped into me with his body. And I was like, at one point I kicked in his direction. I was like, please leave me the fuck alone. He was getting in front of me, like upstaging me. It was terrible. And I felt like at a queer event, you should know that, like, if you're inviting queer people into a space, the space should feel extra safe. And this felt extra not safe compared to other events that I've done that aren't centering queerness. So that was super disappointing. Maybe some of these things were signs that I already should have known or whatever. I don't know. But you live, you learn. I get off stage and I'm trying to unpack my equipment in the dark, which is extremely difficult. I'm right by there's no real room. So I'm like here, about to unpack my equipment. Someone is like, Breezy, can you play some music? We're having issues. And so I was like, okay. I played some music. The sound engineer was like coming to me, asking me questions. Somebody else was like, Breezy, we need your help. the Darvish, the music, give the stick. Like this person was frantic. This person was losing it and clearly had this negative energy and needed to put it somewhere. And so they were like, Breezy, can you help? And I was like, with what? And they were like, Breezy can help. It was so crazy. It was so frantic. The Darvish was so pissed off. I was feeling bad for him because I didn't know, excuse me, it seemed like there was an issue with the music. And that sort of thing is supposed to be done ahead of time. There's an organizer who's supposed to check these things. So it was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. For 30 minutes after I got off stage, no one said good job, Breezy. Everyone was looking to, not everyone was looking to me, but several people were like, what's going on? I was like, I don't fucking know. I'm trying to get out of here. It was a disaster. There was more, but like, I don't even need to go on. Just, it's good to have these kind of gigs because it's making me realize, okay, there are a whole lot of factors you can't control when you are a performer and invited to an event. Maybe invited to a place that you've never been to before, being introduced to people who you're meeting for the first time. So, and I travel with my mom, so I do have someone with me, but it's a lot. It can be scary. And I think this past weekend was an example of like, wow, okay, not only can things get chaotic, but people are going to violate you. And so what I've come to is like, I'm going to write a personal contract for myself. So when these events send me a contract to sign, of course, I read it over and I sign and return to them. But I'm going to ask them to sign a contract for me. And it's going to say things like the photographer of your event must stay 1.5 meters away from me at all times and not walk in front of me while I'm on stage. It's, I don't know, like, it seems like a no-brainer thing, but I'm at this point where it's like, let's just put it all in writing and move forward and continue to improve the system. But yeah, this past event, sometimes there's only been 2 other chaotic events that I've been a part of before. One was like kind of friends and it was very loose around the edges and everything. So it was shitty because some people had come to see me and I didn't end up performing. But it was like, it was unpaid. It was like, I don't know. It was early on. And then this other one, it was the commercial factor and this like demanding of things on the day of when it was a shitty situation that I was in on that day. So I kind of chalked those things up to like, okay, whatever. But with this, it became clear that, and I've had this happen with my intersections before, that like people just want a certain category to like a box to be checked off for their event. So for me, I was fitting this category of like queer rapper. And I felt really extracted from, I gotta say, they didn't even have like, some of these festivals will have like a vegan meal or like something super simple, but something that's dinner. This event started at 6 and most of us were going on at like 11, 12. So like they had some pretzels and crackers and bananas and apples. It was just not the way you should treat artists. And it's very easy to sense whether the management respects you or not. So to be put in a space where I am contractually obligated to perform and I am getting paid for it, but I'm not being respected and I'm not being valued, it was like, wow, really taught me, okay, I'm going to stand up for myself in an extra way. I'm going to build an extra border of protection so that it is less likely for this sort of thing to happen again in the future. So thank you for listening. Super fascinating and fucking crazy. great to know that I can perform under pressure and like when things are kind of scattered. Yeah, and shout out to the friends who came and oh my God. Apparently the photographer was getting in the fans' faces too, or like the audience faces too, and just not respecting space. It's like, and of course it was like a white day. Okay, gonna wrap it up here. Next week I am moving apartments, have 2 shows over the weekend. So I can't like guarantee that I'm going to do a podcast next week, but if you are in Berlin, I am performing at Plotzensee Strandbad Plotzensee. So it's like one of the lakes, but it's in Berlin. It's in Wedding. I had no idea until we went for my mom's birthday. So I cordially invite you. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be like a femme rap hip hop collective kind of thing on the beach or like on the lake there. So I'm pumped. I'm not getting paid for it. Don't fucking care. Like, I'm just ready to be with my people and do my thing. And yeah, that's all I really got. So sending out love and sending out vibes of protection. And definitely, I think it makes my depression worse when I don't speak up for myself and stuff. So definitely, if you need to, write that email, write that feedback, speak up for yourself. It doesn't have to be angry, but I encourage you to do it. I think it makes us feel better. Okay, that's all I got. Breezy out.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.